If you are tired of hearing so much bad news, we have got good news for you here today on Bridges. We are going to hear about some hope stories from Vista Points. I'm Monica Schmelter, and I'm so glad that you could join us for Bridges today. And we have really got some hope stories for you today, and just some ways that people pull together to bring hope to families and to individuals. And this is all about Vista Points. So I'm so glad that you could be here. And I want to welcome you today, Darlene. Good to have you.
Well, it's great to be here.
And Theresa, it's so nice to meet you and have you here as well. So let's start with, I want to hear these hope stories, but tell me, please, you're the executive director at Vista Points, is that
correct.
right? And what is Vista Points?
Well, it's a trustee company, but we also provide education and create awareness, and we do advocacy work for people that are living with a disability.
Yeah, so that's a lot of good work. And
It is.
you guys are able to bring a lot of joy and happiness, help people get things that they need. And I can't wait to hear about that. And it's so good to have you. Theresa, what is your role at Vista Points?
Thank you. I'm a nurse by profession, and I do our public relations on Middle to East Tennessee. So my biggest excitement is being able to go out and let people know about Special Needs Trust, and there is hope when you're in a time of darkness.
Yeah. Because it's so hard for all of us. We face different crises or times of darkness and we don't know what to do. So you all are working with people that are special needs, and what other groups of people?
They are living with a disability. It could be physical, mental, or intellectual, and it's any age. We have infants all the way up to seniors.
Wow. So you help everybody, anybody that has that special needs or that disability. When we say trustee and all of that, those are really big words, Darlene. What does that mean? Break that down for us.
Well, serving as trustee, we handle the financial matters related to the trust. So when someone's needing to qualify for government benefits like supplemental security income and Medicaid, they're only allowed to have up to $2,000 in their checking account. If they have more than that, they can do a Medicaid spend down, or by federal law, they can put that money in a special needs trust that our company manages, and then they're able to qualify or maintain those benefits. And the money in the trust is used to pay for things that are not covered under those benefits.
You know, that's really interesting that you said that. I didn't know that setting up a trust was an option. I had only heard, like, if someone needed like senior housing or a government benefit, that they basically had to get rid of all of their assets somehow, some way, like give it to a relative or do whatever. But you're saying by law, a person can set up a trust.
Yes, and this law has been in existence since 1993.
Wow. Okay. So that's wonderful. So that way a person doesn't have to turn over everything that they've worked for their whole life. They can still maintain it in a trust. And what are some ways that it's used? How do you bring hope to people?
Well, I'll give you an example. We had a young man when I first started 13 years ago who was paralyzed. He inherited $100,000 from his grandfather, as the other grandchildren did. But he was he was receiving SSI and Medicaid. He lived in a group home. He had care 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And he knew that if he accepted that money, he was losing his government benefits. And they added up to about $80,000 a year. So he did not know about special needs trusts, and he ended up renouncing that inheritance, and it went back into the estate. So about 2 weeks after he renounced it, I was at the facility doing a presentation and explaining the benefits of special needs trusts, and he interrupted me, and he said, "Are you telling me that I could have kept that inheritance and my government benefits if I had used the trust?" And I said, "That's exactly what I'm telling you." And he said, "Please keep going out and speaking on this because people don't know."
No, they don't.
And it's been 13 years and I do it all the time now.
Wow, that's amazing, because I can't tell you how many people that I've heard, well, in order to go into this nursing home, in order to go to this place, I have to give up all of my assets. And that's really relinquishing everything that a person has worked for.
Correct.
And that's awful. I mean, that's awful. And so you were saying that that young man, the government benefits for his care was about $80,000 a year. So he decided he just needed to stay on that route.
Right.
Because if he took a one-time $100,000 inheritance, that's not going to meet his needs for years
forever.
and years to
Right,
come.
right. And he would have a waiting period to qualify again. And he said, what am I going to do? I'll
Right.
be on the streets.
Yeah.
So he's been my inspiration all these years.
Yeah. So he inspired you to keep awareness so that you keep talking and letting people know.
Very much so.
Yeah, because I have to tell you, I'm shocked too. I did not know that people could do that. That's wonderful. I'm so glad that that law is in place. What got you into Vista Points? I know you're a nurse by
I'm a nurse by
profession.
profession. I basically have dealt with people with dementia, Alzheimer's type for years. It's in my family. And I have watched people, as we say, spin down to be able to have care. I've watched people with disabilities through automobile accidents, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to handle that. Our healthcare system is taxing to try to work through anyway.
It's like a maze.
It is. And Vista Points allowed me to go into the world of special needs from day one till end of life. So it broadened the scope of just being able to say, let us help you answer some questions. And so that drives me every day. I get phone calls that are not necessarily about trust, but what do we need to do? How can we make that work? And so to be able to do that and point people in the right direction, and we do that as part of our resource center at the office, is people may call us thinking they need to trust, but what we really need to do is look at another avenue and get the information that they need. So there's dual sides to us in what we do.
Yeah,
So.
you're just trying to help people dig through the maze of life, whether it's a medical crisis, an automobile accident, or whatever that is.
Yes.
Yeah, and it has to be a lot to talk to someone when they're in a crisis, in a really bad moment of their life. And sometimes I know I haven't had like a medical emergency, but it just seems like a maze. Like if you need surgery, you call this, you call that, the insurance is this, and it's hard.
And knowing that you get the right information. You go to your hospital, but is the doctor covered under your
Right.
insurance? You don't think about asking about that when you've broken your elbow.
That's right.
And you've got to have surgery tonight. But it is a wonderful thing to go see our beneficiaries and see the things that they need that they don't even know that they can have.
So beneficiaries are the people like that have the special need or that's in the nursing home and they need something. Give me a practical example of somebody in a need and you're able to help them sort through that.
I'll be glad to. We have many. We had a senior female who was in a nursing home. She received a lawsuit settlement from an accident. And when we met her, she just basically laid in her bed. She had cataracts on her eyes and they were very severe. And we told her that she could use her trust money to have cataract surgery, and she wanted to do that. And so we ended up having both eyes done using her trust money, and we hired a case manager to work with her. After that, her personality just came to life. And she said, you know, I'm hard of hearing. Can I go to an audiologist and get hearing aids? And we said, yes, you have enough money in your trust to do that. And so she had hearing aids. And then she said, I love the color purple. Can you get me a purple bedspread, a purple robe, and a purple throw from my couch? And we did. And she started having visitors again. And then she asked us for a CD player. She said, I used to listen to the Gaithers all the time. And she said, I'd like to have that next to my bed. So we got that for her. And for the last 3 years of her life, she lived better and had a better quality of life than she had had in years before that.
Yeah. You know, you think about that situation, just being in a nursing home, not doing anything all day long, maybe not even knowing that she could ask anybody there about the cataract surgery, not being able to see, not being able to hear. That's an awful life.
Lonely.
Yeah, lonely. And she really got her life back
She did.
and was able to enjoy and be happy simply because Vista Points was able to help her see, well, you have this money from, you said, from the auto accident?
Yes.
And so you can use that money for your needs, and she probably didn't know that.
She didn't. And after all of this happened, she started coming out of her room and joining in the activities. She didn't even know they were going on. She just always wanted to be left alone in her room before all of this.
Well, if you can't see and you can't hear,
I go.
you know, and your room isn't decorated the way you like it, I mean, a setting makes all the difference.
It does.
And the fact that she was able to get her favorite color, purple, my favorite color too. That's wonderful. So you really saw her come to life and interact and do things with people because you were able to talk to her about her trust.
True. And our focus is on the quality of life, not the quantity.
Yes.
We want them to enjoy their life and live the best life they can.
Yeah. So you're really advocates for people
Very much so.
to help them get what they need, and maybe they don't know how, but they've got access to it from that trust. We've got just a couple of minutes left in this segment. Is there a hope story that you'd like to share?
I guess mine would go to a very good friend of mine who had a mom who needed to come out of her home and look at assisted living. They were looking at what do we do. Mom had had a fire in the original house, so things weren't as meaningful, but they had replaced smaller. They didn't want all of Mom's assets to be taken up just in paying for basic care.
Right.
So we talked to them about a trust, and her mom has an eye condition that requires very special eyewear that are rather expensive. And Mom had always said, well, my glasses are fine. He says I can go another year. And I said, let's go get another new pair this year. The money is there. Her mom has been playing the piano because she was a piano teacher for years, showing everybody her new glasses, and daughter feels great. So, I mean, it's just opening a thought.
Yeah. And you know, really, when I hear you say that about the mom feels great and the daughter, there's that ripple effect for family members that hate to see their loved ones suffer, not have what they need, not knowing how to get them what they need. I've heard that from so many people, like their parents are in assisted living, or mom or dad, and you know, they want it to be as good as it can be, but they're not sure, you know, how to help. So this is wonderful that we're having this conversation. I'm so glad that you guys are here today. We've got to take a break. We want you to stay with us. We're going to come back with more hope stories from Vista Points.
Prayer changes things. If you need prayer, call 615-754-0039 or email prayer@ctntv.org. If you're looking for ways to grow your faith, we invite you to go to monicaschmelzer.com, where you can watch Bridget's interviews and Monica's teachings on demand. You'll also find free online extras that offer practical ways to live out your faith. Visit monicaschmelzer.com, where you'll find hope, because truth changes everything.
If you're just joining us today on Bridges, we are sharing hope stories from Vista Points. And you know, as so many of you are watching, we're tired of all the bad news going around. We want some hope. We also know that we face all kinds of various situations in life. We have family members that may need to go to assisted living, or people with special needs. So this conversation that we're having today, I think, will be very helpful to you and helpful to your family. And Darlene, I'm just so glad that you could come.
Well, thank you so much for having us here today.
And you're the executive director at Vista Points.
That's correct.
And Bill, tell me about your role, if you would, please, at Vista Points.
Well, I'm a public relations marketer in West Tennessee. And what I do is I go out and visit with different organizations and network, and just try to get them a little bit more information about what Vista Points Special Needs Trust is all about. And we talk about what our mission is, which is, you know, being a trustee administrator, and we work with people who are living with disabilities, physical, mental, and intellectual. And we just kind of lift them up and give them some information on how they can deal with their life that they're living with a disability. And it's wonderful. I was made for this. I mean, it really feels like a ministry.
Yeah, because it is. You know, and you're really acting as an expert and a guide to help people when we don't know what to do. I mean, it is so much of what we're talking about is like a maze. You know, the stories that I've heard is if somebody needs to go in assisted living, and you know, I've shared with you that I have a brother that has Down syndrome, so he has special needs, that
Right.
if they need to go into like a group home, or that all the assets have to be given away. And that's what I believed until Darlene said it. Well, you
Right.
can set up a trust. And when we hear words, Darlene, like beneficiary and trust, it can be intimidating. Would you break that down so it doesn't seem so intimidating?
Well, by our terms, the beneficiary is the person that's living with a disability. And as Bill said, it's physical, mental, or intellectual, and it could be a person of any age. A trustee is the person that's managing the money that's put into the trust. So we do a lot to learn about the federal and state guidelines and make sure that we follow them so the beneficiary can maintain their government benefits that covers their day-to-day needs as well as their health care needs.
Yeah. And when we talk about money, that scares a lot of people. Some people don't want to give all their assets to a family member
True.
because they're afraid.
True.
And so they would prefer really that somebody else would manage that, who knows the laws. Is that what you find to be true?
Very much so. And sometimes a family member from a will is put in charge of
Right.
their loved one, and they think they can handle it, but they're afraid to spend any money because they think they might lose their benefits by doing something wrong, or it's just too much for them to handle because it can be overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely. And nobody wants to make their parent or a family member lose benefits because we've done something wrong. Could you give me some examples of hope stories where you kind of help people through that, not losing their benefits?
Sure. We have a young gentleman who was in an accident and received a lawsuit settlement. He is paralyzed from under his shoulders down.
Wow.
And his poor body is very twisted and mangled. He'll be in a nursing home for the rest of your life. And when you think you're 23, that could be many,
long
many years.
time,
And
yeah.
depression sets in and things like that. So we go out and meet with each of our beneficiaries. And this young man wanted to move, but because his illness is so bad, he needs to be in the nursing home. So what we've done is try to bring the outside world to him. He's very tech savvy, so he has a computer that he can use through different electronic equipment that he can speak. He can move one finger to touch the screen. He has a tube he can blow into. He can write emails, go on Facebook. And just recently, he wanted some virtual reality goggles, and we got those. So now he travels all over through those virtual reality goggles. And he is so much happier than what he was when I first met him a couple years ago because he can reach the outside world now.
Yeah, you're really helping him be able to have quality of life.
Very much. That's our goal.
The best life that he can have, considering that he's going to be in the nursing home for the rest of his life and that he's paralyzed.
That's right.
How about for you, Bill? What kind of hope stories do you come into contact with?
Well, I'm going to go back about 6 or 7
Sure.
years ago, and I was working for an attorney at the time. And this attorney was an elder care law specialist. And I had befriended a couple who were probably about 15 years older than me. And they found out what I was doing. And they said, gosh, does your attorney, does he do trusts? And I said, yes. I said, he specializes in them. Well, lo and behold, they ended up going to this attorney, and they were making arrangements for themselves and also for their daughter, who was a RN, basically. She was a nurse. She had a stroke at the age of 47. So she was in a wheelchair really for the rest of her life and could not work, could not earn an income. So they were very concerned about them passing and her being stuck.
Right.
So I found out at a later point that they had created a special needs trust for her within his trust. And their dream was at some point that they would be in an assisted living at some point and maybe have a bungalow type setup where she could live with them. And they accomplished that, and within 2 years, they both passed away within 10 months of each other. And there sat their daughter, but she was set up.
Right.
She was prepared, and she was going to live out her life with a higher quality of life as a result of their actions.
Right. So part of what we're talking about is really preparing.
Absolutely.
It's thinking ahead of how to meet these challenges, how to meet these needs that come to all of us. You know, when I hear that word, set up a trust, you know, I think, oh gosh, is it hard? Is it complicated? What do people do?
It can be complicated. It depends on their assets and their income and if they've already gifted money to other people. But that's why we refer them to an attorney, so that attorney can go over everything and make sure a special needs trust is the best avenue for them to choose.
What is like a special needs trust? What does that mean?
It's a legal document that people can use to protect their assets, not income, just assets, and qualify or maintain their government benefits, which is usually SSI, Supplemental Security Income, and Medicaid.
Okay, so they could still get government benefits because they've legally set up a special needs trust.
Correct.
And then you administer that special needs trust or oversee it.
That's
when,
correct.
When people need to make expenditures from that and help people with their life. What's another hope story, something that you've seen that was just really brought joy to somebody's heart?
I'll tell you a funny one.
Okay.
We had a lady that she was in her 90s, and she received money. They were gifts. She had a third-party trust, and she was 92, I believe, at that time. And when we meet with them, we give them suggestions of how they can use the money. She refused to use the money in the trust. 2 years
What
went
was the
by.
reason?
Well, 2 years went by, and we would ask her, do you want this? How about this? And she'd say, no, just leave it in there. Finally, at 94, I said, look, I want to have you use your money for something. This is your money. And she said, no, I'm not going to do it. And I said, what are you saving it for? And she says, I'm saving it for my old age.
That's a great attitude.
We did get her to use her money finally, but it took 2 years for her to use that.
I love that. That's just the best. Saving it for her old
That's
age. Good
right.
for her.
Yeah, true.
It's awesome.
That is awesome. Now I know, Bill, you said you feel like you were made for this, that this is ministry. What got you going in this direction?
Well, it's odd. Back in 2011, I met a lady who was going to our church. She was a former nurse herself, and she had formed a social ministry at a previous church. And we didn't have one at our church. So we teamed up, and we decided we were going to form a social ministry. And from that, we started a food pantry. To this point, now it's a paid position, and there's more money in that fund than I ever dreamed of.
Wow.
So maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I got this idea from someone else that said, you know, you need to live your life with joy. Jesus first, others second.
Yeah.
The why is yourself and your last. So it is a ministry for what I do. Yeah,
I can see that. It means a lot to you.
absolutely.
And I think the help that you give to people, because sometimes family members we just can't work through that maze.
True.
And we just don't know what's okay and what's not. And sometimes our family members don't want us messing with their money either.
That's true. That's true. A lot of our clients have mental illness, and their family members are just fed up. They're like, we can't handle anymore. And so they will come to us. And many of them are bipolar, and they go through manic phases. And when they're in the manic phase, they might call the office 6 or 7 times in one day and asking the same questions. But our staff is trained in customer service, and they listen and answer the questions repeatedly if needed and try to help them. And it gives those peoples a feeling of security, knowing that they can call and speak to the staff.
Right. Because it really meets everybody's need. The person gets to call 6 or 7 times and be reassured. And the family members who might still need to be working and doing other things, well, they love their family member. You know, we don't know how to deal with all of that sometimes.
That's right.
It is an illness, and people do get fed up, and they get scared, and the job just feels bigger than them. So you're saying you all are trained and you can help people work through that.
Yes, very much so.
I know that that's an amazing gift. We've got just a few seconds left. Do you have one more hope story you could give us?
Bill, do you want to do
I,
one?
I would love to give you one.
All right.
Recently, I would say within the last 3 weeks, I made contact with an organization, and it's called Spreading Sunshine. And it sounds a little innocuous, but this lady by the name of Abigail had a Down syndrome child, and she brought it home, and the Down syndrome child had an older sister, and she called him Sunshine. So someone decided they're going to make a nice basket for this family. They filled it with baby goods and everything. Well, somebody else got word of it. It went viral.
Oh, wow.
And now they've done over 2,000 baskets for
Oh, my.
people with children with disabilities of all types.
Oh, that's wonderful. People want to be a part of doing something wonderful and doing something good to bring hope. So
That's right.
I want to thank you both for coming and
Well,
for
thank
joining
you.
us on
Thank
Bridges
you.
today. Appreciate it.
Stay tuned. Monica will be right back with closing comments. For more information on today's guest, visit the website on your screen.
Don't give in. God's word says you're an overcomer. If you hadn't done blah, 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 this wouldn't have happened. And let me say this to you. If you think that you are in a mess of your own making, you are still an overcomer. When that temptation comes, you want to make sure that you are dressed for battle. Therefore, put on every piece of God's armor so you will be able to resist the enemy in the time of evil. It takes training. It takes discipline. And so when you're fighting that good fight of the faith, you take your story, whatever it is, and you saturate it in faith, and you fight for it.
Visit monicaschmelter.com to schedule Monica to speak at your next event.
Today on Bridges, we focused on hope stories. And as believers in Christ, ultimately, our ultimate hope and our true reward is found in Jesus Christ. And while we know that we have that hope and look forward to that day that we will be able to be in His presence right now here on planet Earth, we can sometimes find ourselves in some really dark and troubling situations. And if that's you today, I want you to know that I pray hope for you, that because of Christ, because of His Word, because of His promises, we have a hope that cannot be taken away by our circumstances. And if you are in a dark place, I want to remind you that God loves you. His Word says that not even a sparrow falls, but that He doesn't notice that. And then His Word says, and how much more are you than sparrows? And you might say, well, if God loves me so much, why am I in this mess? And you know, sometimes we just don't have answers to all of those questions, but we trust in spite of those questions. And His Word promises that He is perfecting everything that concerns you and that He will never leave you or forsake you. So be of good courage today. Be of good cheer. He has overcome the world. Because of Christ, we have hope. We're out of time, got to go, but we say goodbye and God bless you.